I'm working on hair today, and while I'm waiting for layers to dry, I'm also working on this flower crown that's going to go on over the top of her hair. So I did this drawing. It was part of the original sketch for this piece, and I just went ahead and printed it off separately on some heavy paper. And now I'm going to gesso it. So I do this as a separate piece, as a separate decal that's applied over the top of the piece, because I'm really bad at making the hair and the flowers look separate enough without it being really mushy. So I paint the flowers separately and put them on afterward. This works for me for all sorts of decorative elements that aren't really part of the figure. So this way I get hair that is nice and neat and logical underneath the crown. And I know that sounds weird, but having the hair fall naturally is really important when you're putting elements like this on. And very often what happens is I will, let me grab the rough sketch. I will paint this section of her hair as something completely different from these sections. And without this flower crown, I'm painting them all as one. So when I apply this piece, it looks more natural. And then I can go in and put in the shadows underneath onto her face. And the whole thing ends up looking much more natural. The flowers really pop. So I'm going to let this gesso dry, and I might do another coat because these black lines are still pretty bold. And then I'll paint. I let this dry for about an hour while I worked on something else, and I put all of these bottles of paint on the paper to sort of help it flatten out. So now I can apply some color. And I think I want to start with this one. A couple different oranges on the table for this. I'm just going to add a little bit of green to the centers of these. I'm using my finger to not only lighten the amount of paint that's on there, but also to make it a little bit irregular so that it doesn't look like a hard painted shape. It's just a little bit of a glow. I was really going for realism, I would use a different shade of green for each one of these, but I don't think my style is realistic. I aspire to realism someday, but I'm pretty sure I don't have the patience for it. I do very much envy the people in the acrylic painting group who do amazing photorealistic paintings. I don't think I'm ever going to get there. So now that this is completely dry, I'm using some Sharpies to add some detail in. I'm doing this with Sharpie rather than paint so I can get some nice crisp petal detail going. So doing outlining of the smaller petals, but less outlining of the larger ones. So I'm gonna go sit in front of the TV and do this for a while, and I'll show you what it looks like when it's done. So here's my finished flower crown. I did this in a couple of different colors of Sharpie, and it feels to me like it's not pulling together very well, so I'm going to give this a try. I'm just going to go over the whole thing with a very light coat of orange glaze. Just to make the flowers pull together a little bit more. Especially this one. I think this one kind of falls out. It's a little bit better. And I also want to bump up the green in the center a little bit. There. So once this is dry, I can cut it out and apply it. So here's my finished crown. And before I apply it, I want to do one more thing, and that is just get it slightly damp with my sprayer. And cover it up with some wax paper and just weight it down to get it nice and flat. I'll probably put a book on this in a little while. So it will be a completely flat thing, and I won't have to deal with the ripples of this versus the ripples on, or the contours of the canvas. So I'm probably going to let this dry overnight and then try to apply it when it's dry tomorrow. This piece has been sitting underneath this very large book all night long, and you can see it is very, very flat, which is exactly what I wanted. So I think now I can apply it to the painting. So my decal has some matte medium on the back side, But I'm also going to apply some up here where the decal is going to go. And then I'm going to toss this sponge and get another one so that I can get it down nice and clean. So this is going to go so that the center flower is centered on her head. Oops. Trying to work quickly, but I'm also trying to keep this very pale yellow circle around her clean, and you can see that some of the paint is lifting onto my sponge, just making that difficult. Okay, that looks good. One more clean sponge. And I'm also going to do a little cleaning. When I stepped away from the painting, I could see that this had stained a little bit. And I could probably also clean this up with some paint in a little while, which is probably what I'm going to have to do. A little bit of orange right in here and a little bit of blue. But other than that, it's not too bad. So I think I'm going to let this sit. And then come back in and do a little shadow with, oops, with some blue. So I'm just kind of running my finger along the edges to feel for areas that aren't stuck down. I think I've got it all, and it looks pretty flat. So now I'm going to do a little shadowing underneath the flowers. I'm just doing the same blue that I used to shadow the rest of the figure. with a whole lot of matte medium. And then just doing a little blending with my finger. And then the places where the flowers overlap the hair, I'm going to go in with some black. And I'm also going to do just a little bit of blue along here where the flowers overlap each other. Just to get a little blue in there so that everything is sort of shadowed in the same tone. And I'm sticking my fist in the paint. That's all right. Just to give these a little pop, make them look like they're stacked behind each other rather than all on the same level.